Hi, this is Mrs. Rutherford. Today I'm going to go over some of the review questions. Okay, for sine of 120 degrees, I have my unit circle here, and I'm going to look for 120 degrees. Now, for sine, that is my y value I'm looking for. My y is the square root of 3 over 2, so my answer is the square root of 3 over 2. It is that simple as long as you know your unit circle. Number 2, cosecant of 75 pi. Well, first of all, I know that cosecant is going to be a reciprocal of sine. So all I have to do is find sine, and then I'm going to flip it, and I'll get cosecant. Cosecant. So make sure you know that this arrow is going to mean to flip, because it is the reciprocal, and that is what the reciprocal means. Okay, well 75 pi, that's not anywhere on my unit circle. So I had to figure out where on my unit circle it is coterminal with. Remember, coterminal means where it shares the same terminal side. Well, 75, if I divide that by 2, the reason why I'm going to divide it by 2 is because it takes 2 pi to go all the way around the circle. So 75 divided by 2 will give me 37.5. So that means it goes around 37.5 times. So I'm going to go around this circle 37 times and a half. And I stop right here because that is half ways. That is going to be coterminal with 180 degrees or coterminal with pi. Sine is my y value, so I find it is 0 over 1. So to do that, I need to flip it, and I get 1 over 0. However, we cannot have 0 on the bottom half of a fraction. 0 can never be in the denominator. Remember our no and our okay. No. We cannot do that, so that means our answer is going to be undefined. Okay, number 3, tangent. Well, tangent is going to be sine of theta over my over my cosine of theta. Make sure you know this. Now, if I'm using just triangles and not my unit circle, I don't need to use this. I could use tangent as opposite over adjacent. However, here I'm not using my triangles. I'm going to use my shortcut. My values I already have for sine and cosine, and that's why I'm going to use this fraction. So my 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6 is located right here, so it is going to use this line right here. My sine is my y value. My cosine is my x value. Remember, C comes before S in the alphabet, just like X comes before Y in the alphabet. C goes first, so C is my first one. So sine, I'm going to have negative 1/2 over negative square root of 3 over 2. Now, whenever I am dividing fractions, remember, dividing fractions is as easy as pi. Flip the second and multiply. So this is my first fraction, so I'm going to flip my second fraction. On your quiz, a lot of you forgot to flip it. Flipping means that this now becomes the top, and the top now becomes my bottom. I'm multiplying by the reciprocal, by the inverse. That means I'm changing this one. Now I'm going to be multiplying instead of dividing. And I just multiply the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom. So I get negative 1 times 2, which is going to be negative 2. And then I get 2 times the square root of 3. 2 times the negative square root of 3, which is going to get me negative 2 times square root of 3. Negative 2 divided by negative 2, I can cancel those out, get a 1 at the top. It is going to be a positive 1 because a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. So those also disappear. Now I have 1 divided by the square root of 3. However, I cannot keep a square root on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. Remember, this is just going to be a 1. I'm multiplying by 1, so it will not change my value. Do the same thing again. Top times the top will give me the square root of 3. And then the bottom times the bottom, I get the square root of 9, which is equal to 3. And that is going to be my answer for number 3. Okay, now I have secant of 300 degrees. Well, I know that secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So I'm going to find cosine, and then I will flip it to get my secant. So first I need to find 300 degrees. 300 degrees is right here. Cosine is going to be my x value. Remember, cosine comes before sine in the alphabet. So cosine comes first, which is going to be my x value. I'm going to take that and I get a half. Now I'm going to need to flip it and I get 2 over 1, which is equal to 2. Now for number 5, I need to find cotangent of negative 330 degrees. Well, I know that means I'm going to need to find tangent, and then I'm going to need to flip it because I need to find the reciprocal to get my cotangent. Okay, well, to find tangent, don't forget I'm going to have to find sine of negative 300 over cosine of negative 300. Okay, well, 300, my sine is going to be negative, oh, I'm sorry, we have to find it. So negative 300, remember this negative sign is telling us to go backwards. So I need to go backwards 300 degrees. Well, if a full circle is 360 degrees, then that means I only go back 300 and I will stop here at 60 degrees. So I'm going to use the same values since it will be coterminal with 60 degrees. My sine is going to be the square root of 3 over 2, and then my cosine is going to be 1/2. Now remember, when you divide fractions, it's as easy as pi. Take the second, flip the second, and multiply. So here's my first one. I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to flip it upside down, so it is now 2 over 1, and I'm going to multiply. So 3 square root of 3 times 2 is going to give me 2 times the square root of 3, and then 2 times 1 is going to give me 2. I will simplify by crossing out my 2's because 2 divided by 2 is 1, and now I get the square root of 3. However, this square root of 3 is my tangent, and it's going to be over 1. So now I need to flip it to get my cotangent. So I will get 1 over the square root of 3. However, I cannot keep a radical on the bottom, so I need to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. And I'm going to get the square root of 3 over the square root of 9, which equals 3. Okay, let's do this one. Cosine of 5 pi over 2. Well, 5 pi over 2 is not in our unit circle. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to find it. Well, a full circle is 2 pi. So I want to see if I can get a full 2 pi out of this. So, or actually, it's very easy to count semicircles as well. So I'm going to make this into a mixed number. So when I take 5 pi over 2, I actually get 2 pi and a pi and a half. Okay, guys, this is easy. I'm just making it a mixed number. That just means I'm doing 5 divided by 2. That's how I get 2 right up here. And then I subtract. 2 times 2 is 4. I have 1. That becomes my remainder. You guys remember what remainder means? I'm going to put the 1 over my old denominator, which is 5. I'm sorry, not 5, which is 2. Okay, that's how I get my 1/2. This 2 is how I get my 2 here. I know some of you have been confused in class when I've made it into a mixed number. This is, guys, this is elementary school stuff. Elementary and middle school, I'm making an improper fraction to a mixed number. Now that I have this, I know I'm going to go 2 pi. It's 1 pi, 2 pi, and I'm going to go another 1/2 pi, which is going to be here. So this is where I'm going to stop. Now, cosine is again my x value. My x value is 0, so this is going to equal 0. Okay, now I'm going to skip a couple, and I'm going to do number 12. Find one positive angle and one negative angle that are coterminal with negative 2 pi over 7. You know what, before we do this one with the radian, let's go ahead and do the one with the degree first, and then we'll go and do the one with the radian. So let's skip to number 13, and let's do find a coterminal positive angle and negative angle with 75 degrees. Okay, 75 degrees is about right somewhere close to there, in between 60 and 90 degrees. Okay, well, what I need to do is I need to find 2 different times it will end at the same spot. Well, one time is I can find the negative. I can find the other direction. So the way I do that, I start with my 75 degrees, and I'm going to subtract 360. When I subtract 360, I get a negative 285. The way to do this is to double check that 285 plus 75 gives me my 360 all the way around the circle. Then the other way to do it, we've gone forwards, we've gone backwards, is to go around the circle more than once and then stop at the same coterminal side. Well, to do that, I'm going to take my 75 and I'm going to add 360. When I do that, I am going to get 435 degrees. Guys, make sure you put your degree symbols. You will get points off on your test. Okay, but some of you guys messed up on your quiz when it was a negative number. So let's pretend that it says negative 75 degrees. Okay, so my negative 75 will be somewhere around here. I need to find what will be going the other direction. Going this direction, what that will be. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do negative 75, and I'm going to add 360. Because I want to find out what the positive is. And that's going to give me 285. Now, to find out what it is all the way around the circle, I'm going a negative 360 and a negative 75. So I'm going to go negative 75 plus a negative 360, which is really going to be just negative 75 minus 360. And when I do this, I will get a negative 435. One way to double check your answers is if I start with a positive, then my number